theory that all the successful like ECM biologists in the field, they all have running as a hobby, not turning to death and legacy. Okay, my name is Joan Chang, and I'm a research fellow at the University of Manchester. I'm an assistant professor, I guess, in terms of the US speak, because I think most people don't understand what research fellows are. Like kind of this machine-assisted Pilates. So that's my main hobby right now. In the past, I was doing a lot of fencing, a lot of like ultimate frisbee, but those are all very taxing on the knees, and therefore I have basically old knees now, and so I can't really run, which is why I switched to Pilates. Collagen 1 specifically. It has to be. That collagen is actually under circadian regulation is really cool. In terms of techniques, I wouldn't say I discovered or developed a new technique, but rather we're combining what was done before and trying to use it as a way to then understand, in this context, of cellular matrix trafficking within the cell. So we're combining kind of flow activated vesicle sorting. So instead of doing, usually people do exosome sorting, we do intracellular vesicle sorting. And then combining that with mass spec to then look at the proteome of, cargo, where is it going in cell, what are the dynamics of it. It's not published yet, but it's something that we're hoping to get out this year. We use a lot of mass spec for sure, because we're trying to do a more like unbiased way of looking at the total kind of protein relationships. We also do a lot of confocal imaging or kind of live imaging, so to really understand the structure of it, because obviously when you look at, for example, Western blots or with proteomics, it doesn't quite tell you the form of the matrix molecule we're looking at. Right now, actually, one of the things that our lab is developing is actually using kind of EM techniques, various different types of EM techniques to look at not just collagen 1, but also other types of matrix proteins. And we're doing a lot of things. So we're also using a lot of kind of protein biochemistry, because I'm trying to become more of a true ECM biologist. I have a lot of mentors. I think and also I have a lot of mentors that don't actually know that they're my mentors. Classic ones, and of course, like Carl Cattler is my mentor in extracellular matrix biology. Because he's the one who basically brought me back to really the nitty-gritty of collagen. Because I think in the past, yes, I've worked with extracellular matrix, but I don't really think about it in a kind of dynamic or a protein biochemistry viewpoint. So he will be the one that you can call, if you have to put a label on, then he's definitely one of them. But like I said, I have a lot of other kind of unknown mentors, and that includes a lot of peer that I always go and get their input, not just scientifically, but also career-wise. I don't want to name them here only because I think they might get embarrassed. Another mentor in terms of like also science, but also more of how to manage people. Definitely my PhD supervisor, Janine Erler, who's currently in Copenhagen. I want to highlight her because she is a fantastic mentor in terms of trying to get the best out of someone. And I was really lucky to have her as my first kind of true day-to-day kind of scientific supervisor. And so I also want to mention her here as well. It's like there's a lot of people who want to teach, are open to teach. And so I think the first name that comes to mind is Yoshi Ishikawa, because it's every single time I meet with him, there's always some really interesting kind of discussions around what I call fundamental collagen biology. Another one would be, Valerio Izzi, because again, the way that he thinks about how to deal with big data sets as well as what you can do with big data sets is always super informative. Number, and then Rachel Lennon, but then Rachel Lennon, I see her every day anyway because we're in the same center. There's so many to list. ASMB or, my first ever Gordon GRC, like people I always talk with, I guess would be like Tom Van Akmel, Tim Hardingham, which is, I don't see him at conferences, but more like when he's coming into the lab to the Matrix Cell, the Manchester Cell Matrix Center. Ryan Petrie, because, we always catch up at different conferences. Yes, and then I guess that's like in between the legends and the more junior people, it's like Alexandra Newsham as well. So those are the people that I love talking to them in terms of getting new scientific ideas. Talk to people, be open, be honest, and keep an open mind. I think for me, it's always been kind of keeping that curiosity, and not just, myopic. Don't just focus on what you're doing, but also try and get out there and understand what's being done in other fields, because I think that is really important in kind of putting everything in context. And that makes, collaboration or even getting funding a little bit easier. And I think being friendly and open with everyone, because I think there's a lot of different personalities and characters, because it's inherently like this profession is quite a unique profession in that sense. And so putting yourself out there with an open and friendly manner really kind of helps you understand people more and also allow you to connect with people. And I think connection is super important when it comes to developing your ideas and also developing your science. A bit like extracellular matrix, everything needs to come together and form a network. And so I would say that's one of the most important things, I think, as a younger scientist, to try and build that network, essentially. It's kind of like it's a conscious choice on my behalf, which is, and the reason why I say that is because when I decide to really be involved in ASMB, I've already left the US and, I'm in the UK. But I thought, this is a really good community because a lot of ECM originated from the US, a lot of the new discoveries originated from the US. And so for me, I was like, it makes sense for me to keep in touch with that community. And the best way to be in touch with the community is then to join ASMB and start putting some of the initiatives together. And I think that's one thing I love about ASMB is it's very dynamical. Like, I'm allowed to try new things because of the outreach and communication team, in the sense that because it's also a bigger community than the British community, because inherently there's more people. And so there's a lot of new things that we can try out, essentially. I mean, it's always the drinks afterwards, right? So like the kind of after the conference, and then you sit and you talk about either what happened during the day or like the new things I think about, or just random like musings on life. So I think this is not a good thing, because my strongest memory from the last ASMB meeting is literally me sitting in the bar, and I'm pretty sure Yoshi's there, Valera's there, Davy was there, and then Alexandra was there, but then she left earlier because she was really tired. And somehow, as soon as Alexandra left, the conversation kind of started turning to death and legacy, which kind of is very, very, very heavy. And then obviously not science related. Actually, the nicer memory was definitely the brewery, because we had like ASMB themed beers. In my scientific opinion, a taco can become a sandwich. So the moment that happens is when, I'm assuming taco is like the hard shell taco, right? And therefore taco on its own is not a sandwich, but then if you break it, because usually tacos do break, at some point it does become a sandwich. Collagen. I'm not dissing laminin. I might, but it's just, for me, there's so much still unknown about collagen, that if I start finding laminin interesting, then I am screwed, because I need to focus.